Did you know that prehistoric people built impressive megalithic structures like Stonehenge in England, or that they painted the very first pieces of art like the famous cave paintings found in Lascaux, France and Altamira, Spain? Welcome, fellow history enthusiasts, to a journey through the mist of time. Today, we are talking about prehistoric ages, a vast expanse of human history that happened long before the ink of written records touched our story. From the forgotten footsteps of Paleolithic wanderers to the time when folks first started farming in the Neolithic era, we are going to sketch a vivid picture of how our distant relatives made their way in the world, built things up, and laid the groundwork for the way we live today. But remember, the names and divisions of these epochs might just surprise you. They're the subject of spirited debates among archaeologists and historians. So grab your mental hiking boots and let's traverse the uncharted territories of human history, where the absence of written records only adds to the intrigue. This is the tale you won't want to miss. The basic division of prehistory is into Paleolithic Age or Old Stone Age, Mesolithic Age or the Middle Stone Age, Neolithic Age or New Stone Age, Chalcolithic and Bronze Age, and Iron Age. Let's first talk about the Paleolithic Age, or the Old Stone Age. So first things first, the Paleolithic Age, or Old Stone Age, is further divided into three sub-periods: Lower Paleolithic, Middle Paleolithic, and Upper Paleolithic. I know, it's kind of tricky to catch up on everything. That's why I told you, you have to stay sharp today. Let's talk about Lower Paleolithic. The very beginning of our story is in the Lower Paleolithic, and we're talking about a time around 2.5 million years ago. Imagine this like the Stone Age of the Stone Age. We're way back in time. People back then were rocking some seriously basic tools. We're not talking about fancy gadgets. We're talking about cleavers and hand axes. Hand axes were these teardrop-shaped rocks that our early ancestors crafted for a variety of tasks. They used these hand axes for cutting, chopping, and even butchering animals for food. And then there were cleavers. Think of cleavers like the heavy-duty knives of their time. They were these big, thick slabs of stone shaped kind of like a meat cleaver you'd find in a modern kitchen. Our ancient pals would use these to hack away at things, especially for dealing with meat and bone. Now, who were these cool cats of the Lower Paleolithic? Well, we've got the Homo habilis and Homo erectus in the spotlight. These early hominins were the ones who were just starting to figure out this whole tool-making gig. They were like the pioneers, learning how to shape rocks into tools, making life a bit easier for themselves. It's a bit like the dawn of technology in our human story. These basic tools might seem simple, but they were groundbreaking back then. They allowed our ancestors to do more than just rely on their natural abilities. They were taking the first steps toward mastering their environment. And this was just the beginning of the incredible journey through human history. Middle Paleolithic. All right, so we fast forward to the Middle Paleolithic, a span of time from about 300,000 to 30,000 years ago. This was like the upgrade era for tools. People started to get fancy with their rock creations. And one of the big deals here was the Mausterin tool industry. The Mausterin tools were all about that high-quality flint. You had tools like points, which were like the Swiss Army knives of this period, just more refined. These points were great for cutting, scraping, and even hunting. And then there were scrapers, which, as the name suggests, were perfect for scraping the skin off animal hides or cleaning up plant material. These were essential tools for survival in the Middle Paleolithic, but the stars of the show were the Neanderthals. These cool, stocky folks were prominent during the Middle Paleolithic. They had their own unique style, from their distinctive physique to their cool cave dwellings. Neanderthals were well suited to the challenging conditions of the Ice Age, and they knew how to make the most of their surroundings. They weren't just stone tool users. They were also skillful hunters and gatherers. Neanderthals had a close relationship with their environment, and they even had their own culture and traditions, which is pretty impressive. Upper Paleolithic. The Upper Paleolithic was the grand finale of the Paleolithic era, which unfolded from around 40,000 to 10,000 BCE. This was the age of high-tech stone tools, and blade tools were the rock stars of this period. These blade tools were like the cutting-edge technology of their day. They were super thin and sharp flakes, kinda like prehistoric razor blades. People used them for all sorts of things, from precision cutting to carving. It was all about getting the job done efficiently. The Upper Paleolithic saw humans getting crafty with more than just rocks. People started to work with bone and antler, and that opened up the whole new world of tool possibilities. You could create specialized tools for tasks like sewing, engraving, and even artistry. It was like a renaissance of tool making, but with bones and antlers. And here's the really cool part. This is when our species, Homo sapiens, made their grand entrance onto the world stage. These were modern humans, just like us, but living in a much different world. And what's really fascinating is that they didn't just rock the tool game, they were also about art and culture. Picture this: cave paintings. Yes, that's right. Humans in the Upper Paleolithic were the first known artists. They left behind stunning paintings on cave walls, showcasing their creativity and connection with the world around them. They were expressions of their culture, beliefs, and experiences. But it wasn't just art. There was a whole lot of advanced social stuff going on too. Communities were growing, and people were cooperating and sharing knowledge. This was a time when the seeds of complex human societies were being sown. Mesolithic Age, the Middle Stone Age. Our next station is the Mesolithic Age, which is like the middle child of prehistory, nestled between the Stone Age of the Paleolithic and Neolithic. This time period, depending on where you were, stretched roughly from 10,000 to 8,000 BCE. So what's happening during this era? Well, our ancestors were making some interesting changes. They were still doing the hunting and gathering thing, but they started getting cozy and settling down a bit more. Instead of always being on the move, they'd set up semi-permanent camps near good spots for hunting and gathering. You know, location, location, location. When it comes to tech, they were upgrading. Say goodbye to those big clunky tools from the Paleolithic. In the Mesolithic, they were all about microliths. These finely crafted, small stone tools were used for everything from cutting to woodworking. They even figured out how to attach them to wooden shafts for making cool stuff like arrows and harpoons. And guess what? Fishing became a hot trend. Our ancestors started perfecting the art of catching fish, and they had fish hooks and nets to prove it. They also got better at processing plants. So there's a bit of experimenting with farming and domestication going on. While we can't throw a big spotlight on their art and culture, there are a few cave paintings and artifacts that give us a glimpse into their world. Think of it like the earliest version of decorating your room. As for their social scene, well, it was probably getting more complex as they set up shop in one place for longer. We don't have all the details, but it's clear they were starting to organize themselves in new ways. And let's not forget, the environment was changing too. The world was warming up, glaciers were retreating, and plant life was shifting. All of this would have had a big impact on how they lived and adapted. Neolithic Age, New Stone Age. Neolithic Age is the place where things really start to get interesting. Kicking off around 8000 BCE, it's the moment humanity hit the jackpot. Agriculture and animal husbandry. Our ancestors were tired of chasing their food all over the place. So they thought, why not grow it ourselves? And just like that, they set the stage for a game-changing era in human history. With farming and raising animals, they hit the food production jackpot. Suddenly, there was extra grub to go around, which meant two big things. First, the population started to explode because people didn't have to be on the move constantly. And second, they decided to put down roots and create cozy little villages and towns. It's like they discovered the secret to staying in one place. The Neolithic era was all about getting fancy with technology. They started making pottery, so you could have something to put your food in. And weaving became all the rage for crafting textiles. But the real thing was their upgraded stone tools. These tools made everyday life easier and opened up trade options. This was a huge deal, people. It's what we call the Neolithic Revolution, and it shook things up big time. It's the moment when we saw the birth of more complex societies and social structures. This laid the foundation for the rise of early civilization. Chalcolithic and Bronze Age. During the Chalcolithic and Bronze Age, humanity's ingenuity continued to shape the course of history. The Chalcolithic Age, often called the Copper Age, was that time in history when people were kind of in between the Stone Age and the more famous Bronze Age. It all kicked off around 3300 BCE, give or take. What made this era special was the introduction of copper into the mix. Copper was innovative because it could be extracted from ores and shaped into all sorts of stuff. As people started using copper, their settlements got bigger and more organized because they had got their handy copper tools that made life on the farm or in the workshop a lot easier. And guess what? They didn't stop at just practical stuff. They used copper for blinging themselves up with fancy jewelry and decorations. It wasn't just about looking good. These items were like status symbols and showed off their creative side. Meanwhile, the Bronze Age didn't have a universal start date. It kicked off around 3300 BCE in some regions, but took its sweet time reaching others. What defined this era was the revolutionary use of bronze, a strong and durable metal created by alloying copper with tin or other metals. Bronze was a game changer because it was way better than just plain copper. It was stronger and tougher, which meant it could be used to craft more robust and reliable tools, weapons, and all sorts of objects. Think of it as a significant upgrade from the Copper Age. This technological advancement wasn't just a minor improvement. It completely transformed the way people lived. In the world of weaponry, the Bronze Age was a golden age. Bronze allowed for the creation of highly effective swords, spears, and armor, making warfare a whole different ballgame. These new weapons gave armies an edge, and conflicts took on a different level of intensity. In everyday life, bronze tools made tasks like farming and construction much more efficient. But the Bronze Age wasn't just about practicality. It was also a time of artistic and cultural flourishing. Bronze Age societies weren't content with just functional objects. They were all about intricate metalwork, crafting detailed sculptures, and producing awe-inspiring jewelry. Another aspect of the Bronze Age was the advancement of pottery techniques. People were making more sophisticated and visually appealing pottery, showcasing their craftsmanship and aesthetic sensibilities. This marked a significant development in the world of ceramics and design. When it came to architecture, Bronze Age civilization didn't hold back either. They constructed impressive monuments, which often served religious, social, or commemorative purposes. These structures reflected their growing social complexity and organizational skills. Iron Age. The last chapter in today's story is the Iron Age, the era of iron, strength, and some breakthrough stuff. The Iron Age didn't just follow the Bronze Age. It stormed onto the scene around 1200 BCE in various parts of the world. But it's fashionably late in some places. Timing varies depending on where you're standing on the globe. Now, the most important thing here is iron. Our ancestors were like, bronze is cool, but what if we take it up a notch? And bam, they unleashed the power of iron tools and weapons. Iron is like the superhero of metals, stronger, more durable, and ready for action. With these iron goodies, people in the Iron Age made some serious strides. Farming got a boost because of more efficient tools, and construction took off like a rocket. And let's not forget about warfare. Iron weapons made quite an entrance on the battlefield. But here's the real star of the show. The Iron Age played a crucial role in shaping ancient empires and cultures. We're talking about heavyweights like the Hittites, Assyrians, and eventually the mighty Roman Empire. These guys knew how to put iron to use and built some of the greatest civilizations in history. So there you have it, people. The lowdown on why delving into prehistoric ages is such a big deal. It's like unlocking the secrets of our past, a time when our ancestors were inventing, adapting, and building the foundations for everything we know today. Whether we're talking about the incredible tech upgrades, the farming revolution, the birth of early civilization, or the beauty of ancient art, these periods offer a glimpse into our human journey. And remember, it's not just about history. It's about who we are and how we got here. It's a reminder that our story is filled with remarkable twists, and it's one that's still unfolding today. So whether you're a history enthusiast or just curious about where it all began, exploring the prehistoric ages is like taking a thrilling journey through time. Thanks for joining us, and keep the curiosity alive, because our past is a treasure chest waiting to be opened.